or around the world. Shop online or in person anywhere MasterCard is accepted. Save with no interest and zero annual fees. And the best part? If you're a cable customer, you are already pre-approved. Just visit the cable building in Bastere or sign up online at www.thecable.net. Get your Platinum Loyalty Card today because you deserve Platinum. Terms and conditions apply.
Good morning, St Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to another edition of Inside the News, right here on WINN FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius, and I am joined with Mr. Kevon Brown.
Good morning.
Today will be very exciting. Today is World Radio Day. Woo! And today we will be showing appreciation to the radio.
Yes.
We'll be going into the history about radio,
ever-present radio,
the importance of radio, the relevance of radio, and this is going to be basically a part 2 of the conversation I had with Ike and DuPont some days ago. So thank you so much for choosing WINN FM 98.9. This is another edition of Inside the News. Just before we take a break to say thank you to the sponsors, the theme for today is New World, New Radio, Evolution, Innovation, Connection.
Such strong buzzwords.
Indeed. I think it explains radio in its entirety.
Yes.
And I look forward to an exciting discussion. So we have a number of comments from radio listeners, past and present media professionals from here and across the region. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a very, 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 very exciting discussion. And listen, and you may learn a thing or two. Let us say thank you to our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to have this very, very interesting discussion. You are listening to WINN FM 98.9 of Inside the News.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Imagine a place that has all that you need. All of the things for your business to succeed. Furniture, copiers, laptops and more. TDC Business Center is your number one store. Print and copy and scan and fax. Our copy center does all of that. If you're having a party and you need chairs and tents, we've got all your needs and grand rentals for rent. The TDC Business Center has everything your business needs. Superior copy and printing services, business equipment and furniture, and a wide array of renting materials for all occasions. TDC Business Center, providing solutions that work.
At The Cable, we know being local means supporting our own, and our customers deserve the best. Our customers deserve Platinum. So now, all customers of The Cable qualify for our new Platinum Loyalty Card. An elite MasterCard experience that lets you support your own like never before. Instantly send money to any Platinum Loyalty member at home or around the world. Shop online or in person anywhere MasterCard is accepted. Save with no interest and zero annual fees. And the best part? If you're a cable customer, you are already pre-approved. Just visit the cable building in Bastere or sign up online at www.thecable.net. Get Get your Platinum Loyalty Card today because you deserve Platinum. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Inside the News on WINN FM 98.9. I'm your host, Devon Cornelius, and as I said earlier, we have Kevin Brown, who will be a part of this very exciting discussion today.
Very exciting.
Today is World Radio Day. A bunch of excitement going on today, Kevin. A bunch of excitement going on today. The theme says it all. New world, new radio, evolution, innovation, connection. As I said earlier, it describes radio in its entirety, and we will be having, I think wonderful is an understatement, so let me not say wonderful. But we're going to be having a very good discussion on this topic, and of course we are going to welcome your participation. You can send us a WhatsApp at 662-2204. You send your comments, you can send a voice message on what you think about radio, the importance of radio, the relevance of radio. Is radio still something that you listen to? Do you think that more could be done or can be done in radio? So we look forward to your participation. But I'm going to hand it over to Kevon because he's over there jumping up and down. So he probably has a lot to say this morning. Kevon, take the wheel.
You flatter me by assuming that I have a lot to say, Mr. Cornelius. Good morning, radio listeners. Again, thank you so much for joining us on today's edition of Inside the News. As my co-host so eloquently expressed, today is World Radio Day. And it was first, just a little history, it was first proclaimed in 2011 by the member states of UNESCO. And then a year later, it was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly, thereby bequeathing World Radio Day as an international day of recognition. So I'm going to go into a little bit of history. It'll be like the quickest history of radio that I like because I could do an entire exhaustive history of harnessing the natural radio waves that exist through the wires and antennas and different broadcasting equipment. And then you have ham radio. Ooh, that started it all. Ham radio, or our amateur radio, that reaches short or long distances based on where your antenna is set up, based on the frequency that you're trying to tap into. And then we could jump to December 23rd, 1900. That's a long time ago, when the first human voice was broadcasted via radio waves. Because before that, it was Morse code, like beep 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 beep. Yep. The first human voice was broadcasted on December 23rd in 1900 by Canadian Reginald Aubrey Fessenden. It's an interesting last name. Yes, oh. Fessenden. It's spelled exactly how it sounds. Fessenden. But he was the first voice to reach a large audience. The broadcasting station was in Washington, D.C., I think, along the lines of the Potomac. And the program was based on Christmas, essentially. And I think he was the first one to say Merry Christmas over the radio waves. Yes.
Merry Christmas.
I know. And then, and a little tidbit. Apparently, that was also the first case of mic fright or radio fright, when people get afraid of a microphone. Yeah, when, they freeze up. Apparently, that was one of the first. That was the first mic fright on radio.
I've been there.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Yeah, I've been there.
I don't think we all wake up being experts at a mic and just see a mic and just I have absolutely no problem speaking into it. And then you jump from the 1900s to some 39 years later, which was during World War II. And the importance of these transmissions via radio waves became even more prevalent worldwide because at this point, TV was very much a thing, but because of the war and interference and whatnot, radio was the only thing that really stood. During the period 1939 to 1945, the BBC had to close down their television operations, but kept their radio operations going.
Interesting.
I know. I know. And also, it was very important in the Caribbean aspect of things because it was one of the ways that people in the Caribbean could check in on their family members and friends who were conscripted to take part in the war. And also, I think during World War II, cricket was still going on, even even during that time. So BBC Radio in 1939 started broadcasting to the Caribbean the West Indies tour, the West Indies cricket tour, as it was happening. So people would, at that point, radio wasn't a household thing. It was set up more in communal places, police stations, schools, maybe libraries, stuff where people communally gather around, not necessarily in every single household. So you would have to be like gathered around these places to hear what was going on. So they would gather around these places to listen to the radio. I think it wasn't until in Jamaica, 1950s, is when the spread of radios became more prevalent, specifically in Jamaica, in the 1950s, where there were rediffusion boxes. You needed special boxes. It's like the radio's version of a cable box, where you had to have this access to this box to get a radio signal in your home and listen to the radio. But let's hone in even further as I bring my brief, like I said, it's a very brief presentation. I was not kidding when I said a brief, because it could be an exhaustive look into the history of radio. But bringing it back home to St Kitts and Nevis, the first local radio station, or the first local radio broadcasts, not necessarily a station at that point. It was radio broadcasts started as an experiment in the 1930s. And the station was assigned the call sign of ZIZ, Z-I-Z. So Z-I-Z first started as an experiment in radio broadcast. And then after the 1930s, I think it was during the war period, unfortunately, that experiment closed down. And some 30 years later, in 1961, doors would officially open for ZIZ, for the ZIZ Broadcasting Company, or as it was known, ZBC. And I think
I wonder how many persons know that.
I know.
ZBC.
It's an interesting tidbit, and apparently, CA Paul Southwell was one of the very much backers, the pushers to make ZBC come alive. And it lives on to now, from 1961 to now. And St. Kitts, I think we have somewhere around along the lines of 8 radio stations that are broadcasting via transmissions. We're not counting internet radio because, unfortunately, if the internet goes down,
then there's
no radio in internet radio. So we're speaking specifically as it relates to antennas and using radio waves and transmitters. We have around about 8 of those, including our lovely WINN, ZIZ, Von Radio, Freedom, Kiss, and Sugar City 90.3. That's my brief presentation.
Thank you, and very good presentation. I was able to learn a few things that I did not know. Fessenden. That is what really stuck with me. Very, very interesting.
He's been noted as one of the fathers of radio.
Wow.
Voice broadcasting radio.
1900. That's a long time ago. But very good presentation, Kevon. And as I said earlier, we're here to talk about radio. We're on the radio, talking about radio, and we're looking at what radio has done, the positive impact radio has had on the community, not just here in St Kitts and Nevis, but across the entire world. And so it is something that we have been longing for. Again, this is Also, part two of the discussion we had here on Voices, I think it was last week or week before.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Week
really
before,
look forward to this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But as we're talking about radio, Kevin and I, we can't just sit here and just talk about radio and say the history of radio and who they. We're gonna touch base with some juggernauts.
Juggernauts. I like that word.
Juggernauts in the media profession and persons who worked in media and communications for years, for decades, and persons who left their mark. So you know when you come and you see that mark, you know that's Kevon, and you know that's Devon. So we are going to touch base, or not have a conversation. We're going to touch base with Julian Rogers. I wonder if you guys know who Julian Rogers.
Well, tell the people. Tell the people for those who don't know.
I'm gonna have to tell them because I don't think they know. So let me tell them. Julian is, as I said before, a juggernaut. And Julian has been in the media profession for a very, very long time. So Julian Rogers, or let me try to pronounce his second name, Julian Ernest Rogers, is a Caribbean broadcaster and journalist. He has worked as broadcast manager, TV and radio host, and producer, publisher, trainer, lecturer, media consultant, and public relations professional. Involved since the 1970s with the building of national radio stations, notably in Barbados, St Kitts and Nevis, yes, Antigua and Barbuda, and part of the original team set up to revolutionize the media industry in Trinidad and Tobago with the rebranding of the Trinidad and Tobago Television Company, TTT. That's my favorite. Kevin, you know that. That's my favorite television. I always looked at TNT. I'm fascinated by that woman, that lady who is in it. She's so eloquent and so calm and so polite. He has been called the Caribbean Man and has established a reputation as one of the region's most respected media practitioners. This morning, we were able to touch base with Julian Rogers, and he gave his take on radio. So we're going to hear that clip shortly, where Julian Rogers is someone who has been working in the media profession since the 1970s. He has held several posts, several positions. He has worked in both radio and television. And so he has a lot to say, a lot of information to provide us with. So take a listen to this clip. I'll just have the technician pull up that clip real quick, and take out your book and start to write and send us your questions and your comments. Again, the number is 662-2204. You are listening to WINN FM 98.9 for another edition of Inside the News. Here is Julian Rogers.
I was having a conversation just a couple of days ago talking about the pervasive value of radio, and making the point which has been made in several generations, so to speak, how important radio is and will remain for a very long time. Because remember that when television first emerged, they said that would be the end of radio as we knew it. And that hasn't happened, and television has been around for decades now. And I think that the point to be made as well is that with every change in the technology, radio has been enhanced. And that, I think, really confirms the true value of radio. Remember, beginning with time, first of all, where the ability to create far more images and everything else on the so-called canvas of life. that I call is radio, so that we really start off with what is really the very heart of human communication. We use our voices, and our voices really convey so many emotions. Not even the computer could grab them all, as you would notice from Siri and so on. But I would tell you that not because I started in radio and radio has been my life, that the value does not diminish. And I make in today's situation where radio is also benefiting from that. The internet is there, and now radio is online, which means that the audience is expanded. I can't even count the amount of times really to move from what we could really say is a narrow audience in St Kitts and Nevis, and maybe listeners in Montserrat and whatever else. But now look at what's possible. Anybody, anywhere, anytime can listen to WINN FM. So that audience expansion has a value. And it's the most difficult part of the equation, because if we could just transfer that value into dollars and cents, all our radio stations would be even far more valuable. That's one of the biggest challenges we have right now. I know it in the context of my current responsibilities, and when I look back at what we were able to do with radio in terms of content and also in terms of the revenues to support it, it is the most testing of times now, because there's intense competition, so that means the fragmentation of the audience, so that where originally I would have had command, literally, of the major portion of the audience in any Caribbean territory, that's been radically changed with the emergence of so many other radio stations. But it also gives an opportunity for certain niches of radio. So it's no longer a situation where you set up a radio station to be available to everybody as an audience. You can now be very selective, and that I think is another aspect of the value of radio, because we could create a radio station tomorrow that deals only with health matters or with agriculture or with tourism for that matter, and then take that audience one and give it to the relevant advertising and say, hey, we have these people participating in our radio. The other value of radio these days enhanced is the fact that it is no longer a one-way communication. The audience is now part of the radio station day in, day out. They're not only giving feedback on what they like and what they don't like, but they're also contributing information or even entertainment or whatever is available and is of interest to them. So that there's a new marriage now between the personality or the news or the journalist, as the case may be, and the audience. And the feedback is instant. And they also then put some extremely heavy demand on the role of the people who are working in radio, because your audience in a lot of instances may be brighter than you at any given moment about a particular situation. And that then raises the other value of radio, and that is the matter of credibility. In other words, people listen to radio, and what they say in the radio will be used to be true and accurate. And that is a role, that is a value that will not change. And that, thank God, is one of the very important aspects of radio. What else can I tell you at this stage? Because you raise a very, I wouldn't say a simple question, but a critical question at a time like this. And I say where radio can now move or should be moving to, it's a matter of being visual. The visual radio now component really is a recognition of another element of technology that now makes it possible for the radio to be seen. And to be seen, not just sticking a camera in the studio and say, hey, that's a webcam. It now gives you an opportunity to bring a number of things together. So you can transmit audio, transmit pictures, you can now share and have instant feedback from your listeners. via the social media platforms, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or whatever the case may be. So that radio is enhanced. I can't help but repeat the real value of radio in any context, in any environment, etc. And the new technological tools and the possibilities of a lot of well, I would say more tools in terms of given to us by the internet makes radio really, really a great value.
And I must ask a question about expectations of radio personnel. Can you speak to us a little bit about the issue of training, the issue of professionalism?
Well, I think it is very clear, Clive, that the people who work in radio now and those who come into radio must acquire new skills. It's no longer. I mean, let's put it simply. Today, I say to journalists that you go out and you get a story. You write a story for radio. You also write a version for online. You can do a story for television directly. And the story comes in various versions, which is all relevant to a particular audience. And you know, there's people in the rush and whatever else, and they pick up the phone, there's something there. They don't have time for a long read. They want to get right into the succinct elements of that particular story. So you really have to acquire, if you have not yet, acquire those skills of understanding the differentiation in terms of how you develop these products, so to speak, for the audience. I often say that people in the media, and not just radio now, must recognize the history of the development of the communication using. So we started off with a slate, I suppose. We got up to using pencils and pens. We got up to using word processors. We came up to using computers, etc. And just imagine that decades ago, we lumbered around with a huge tape recorder and huge cameras and whatever else. Everything now is confined to your phone. It is not possible for you to do many of the things you did with all that equipment with a phone. You can shoot an interview with somebody. You can do, you can instantly transcribe an interview and a conversation with somebody. So you have the copy, you have the video, you have the audio. All of that is in your hands, so that you really have no excuse to say, well, don't. No longer. If you want to be valuable, you really have to have all those skills. And of course, I don't have to say they have to have the skills, the competence of language. That is of course vital. But I think that the technical skills and to do things well is very, very important at this stage, because you've got an opportunity to be trained, and you don't have to go to the university to get some of this training. It's available. The university or the internet is right there. All the demonstrations, all the training modules, all the copy you could be looking for, and the guidance is there. So that I spend a lot of time looking at things. And, in recent times I've been working a lot in video, for instance. And I was absolutely amazed that every element of the video world that I wanted to understand, they're teaching manuals there every day by several different people, so that I didn't have a long stretch in picking up exactly what I needed to know about doing the kind of thing I do with video right now. And, fortunately for me, I'd been doing video a long, long time ago when it was film and editing or whatever else. I don't have that now. There's no video falling off the edit table with me onto the floor, and I'm grabbing up a piece that I really want to put back in there and using Scotch tape or whatever else. All of that is electronic now. And it's a joy. It's fun.
You were just listening to Julian Rogers. He is a media professional from Barbados, and he is considered to be one of the most respected media practitioners in the Caribbean. He has worked in many Caribbean countries, Antigua and Barbuda, St Kitts and Nevis, TNT, Barbados, and he has been not just in radio but in TV as well. And so he has a broad knowledge of what radio, media, journalism, communications.
Its history, how it's changed, how it's going to continue changing. He brought up some very interesting points as to how radio has basically integrated different forms of media as they've become available and still managed to retain what radio actually is. He mentioned the fact that we're now into audio visuals. He mentioned the fact that we're on social media and integrating into that space. One of the other ways that radio was, I guess, or a branch of radio that came about as the internet became more popular was podcasting, where people would do serial episodic content for audio specifically. And even that changed a bit to become audio visual podcasting, where people would put their videos of their podcast on Facebook, on YouTube, and even play them on radio stations as well. So radio, although it has adapted and integrated other forms of media, it's still very much at its core one of the longest standing mediums for communication. And when all of those integrations break down, radio will still stand.
Yes. And if I may
as
add...
long as the transmitters stand.
Well, let's hope that they do. But if I may add or piggyback off of what you said, I mean, first, let me just say, Kevin, you are so correct. And so is Mr. Rogers. We now have radio where basically there is a competition to keep up with, I don't want to say young people because I'm young, I'm only 20, but we're seeing now that radio is not just radio, but you have through social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, YouTube. But there are some persons who believe that radio is not important anymore. Some people think that I prefer to go on the website and listen than to turn on an actual radio. But in times of a disaster or a crisis, and your transmitter is still standing, I have to emphasize that, then it goes right back down to the core, radio. And so in my opinion, radio is very, very important. Radio is relevant, radio is important. And it brings me to this comment from someone who listens to the radio. He says, or the comment says, because I don't know if it's a he or she, radio will never die. It will only evolve. Communication is vital to human existence, whether entertainment or education. In Radio Kevon, we have entertainment programs, we have education programs. Most of the programs that we listen to on a daily basis, it may not be strictly education, but listening to the radio is like you're in a classroom. So you necessarily may not have to read a book, not saying that you should not read a book, but listening to radio programs and listening to the radio on a whole, you can learn so much. I think radio played a very pivotal role during the early parts of COVID-19, of the lockdown, because when I was home, I was bored as hell. And I listened to the radio. And I listened to these, what do you call these things, but the vaccine dance and them, that stuff there.
Oh, you mean the trends?
Yeah.
The
And
social
so
media
you
trends.
had your soca, your reggae, your bacchanal, and it was good. That is what radio did. It kept me mentally safe and sane. And I think so many other people could say the same thing. The comment says also radio has moved from dial knob boom boxes to digital display radios, now to cell phones and other handhelds.
Yes, because
So-
we have a lot of radio listening apps. Like
Yeah.
TuneIn is one of them, where you can basically listen to any radio station around the world
But
once
you
you
know-
know the frequency.
As you said that, I have a phone here. It's a Samsung Galaxy S8.
Yes, don't on them.
And but it doesn't have a radio.
True.
It has a radio app.
Mm.
Sounds weird, right? I had to go to what do you call it here now? I had to go to Play Store to download a radio app so that I could listen to the radio. But usually the phone would come with like a built-in radio where you don't have to download any app. There's already a radio there. So now there's not just the radio that you have in your house, but vehicles now have radio. Your phone, your tablet, your computer. Radio is everywhere, anywhere. Radio is all over the place. There is another comment. Someone says all media is biased. However, SKN Live Radio is the least biased, as both sides of an issue are allowed airtime, giving a more balanced perspective. A big congratulations to SKN Radio. Long may stay on air.
That's on the assumption that there are only two sides to a story. That's on the assumption that the world is black and white and there is no gray. But okay, go off.
Interesting comment, but we still welcome with your comments. Send us a WhatsApp at 662-2204. 662-2204. We are now going to hear from another media professional who lives right here in St Kitts and Nevis, and he will give his take on radio and how he feels about radio. And very interesting. I hope you guys are taking notes, because if we have any more time left, we will probably take a call or two to hear what you may have to add to the program. But if you're like me and your phone is broke, you can send us a WhatsApp at 662-2204. 662-2204. Kevin,
Yes.
do you have anything to
add?
add?
If you can send a WhatsApp, send Morse code. Find a way to send Morse code.
Okay, we're going to hear from Andre Huey. He too is a media professional, and he will give his take on radio. Have a listen.
Hi, this is Andre Huey, media consultant and journalist and broadcaster. I was asked to share a bit on World Radio Day and the theme for this year and on the occasion of World Radio Day for Inside the News for WINN FM. I must say that radio is one of those aspects of the media that I think it has constantly evolved and has proven from time and time again that it is very cutting edge and can move with the times. When you consider that there have been other forms of media that have come on the scene and technology has evolved in so many ways. You now see social media coming to the fray. Television came to the fray after radio, and yet radio has found a way to remain relevant in the lives of people right across the world, and has moved along with the technology and evolved with the technology and still remain relevant. It's a beautiful thing. Radio is a very, very powerful tool. You know, even here in St Kitts and Nevis, we see where, while some people may not necessarily read the newspaper or they may not necessarily watch TV, and some people may not even have social media accounts, one thing for sure that they will do is listen to the radio. And that is just goes to show you the power of radio and the ability for it to evolve with technology. So on this occasion of World Radio Day, I would like to wish all my fellow broadcasters a happy World Radio Day, and stay relevant, stay consistent, and continue to inform the public, because we as broadcasters have a very major responsibility to our listeners and to the nation on a whole.
That was just Andre Huey, and I wholeheartedly agree. Kevin, when I started working in radio, before, I was always fascinated about radio. I was at television first, and the television too has a lot of reach and a lot of power, in my opinion. But I was always fascinated about radio and trying to understand how it feels to be in radio, how it feels to work on the radio, how it feels to play a part in educating the people on the current issues that we face on a regular basis. But there are some repercussions. There are some repercussions to speaking on issues that we face every day. What do you have to say about that, Kevin?
What, the repercussions that we inevitably face while speaking on certain issues? As it pertains to that, I wouldn't speak on an issue unless I've done at least some preliminary research.
Right.
I wouldn't touch an issue unless I can say for certain that various experts have agreed that such and the fourth has happened, will happen, may happen. And if possible, even having the expert in the room, on whatever the issue may be. Now, whether we're talking hypothetical or we're talking something that is actively going around, regardless of how we let's say, package the issue, because a lot of times we package an issue in a very indirect way in order to mitigate any backlash, any fight. Well, maybe not fight, because sometimes a fight is good. To be honest, sometimes a fight is necessary.
I like a challenge.
Yeah, sometimes a fight is necessary to push social discourse, and so you want to bring up certain issues that might seem sensitive or hot button issues that people have various opinions on, and to bring various perspectives. And I think pushing those discussions actually helps people understand situations a lot deeper, a lot better. So there are the pros and cons. You would face the backlash, of course, but if you, in the end, educate somebody, if in the end you push for social discourse, and in the end you make people more aware of situations that are going on, then I think you've done your job, regardless of the repercussions that come afterwards. Some repercussions are very much life-altering. Because we know that in certain parts of the world, journalists, for even engaging in certain topics and discussions, their lives are lost, their families' lives are lost, like the entirety of their being is upended. So they run the risk of that because they don't have freedom of speech, they don't have freedom of expression, they don't have freedom of the press. So there are significant repercussions, but I think we are lucky enough that I wouldn't want to say lucky, because based on some of the repercussions that I've heard that journalists have faced here in the Federation, the struggle is no different, because essentially their life was upended. But we fortunately haven't had any instances where a whole slew, like an entire radio station's staff, it disappears.
But Kevin, if I may add, and it may sound weird, but remember I said before, I like a challenge. I am young in this thing. I'm young in radio, young in media. I look forward to the days where I would have to run down a story, and I would have to go the length and breadth to get a story, and maybe somebody would have to threaten me, But I think that is journalism, telling a story that others are afraid to tell.
It sounds like you want to be a deep throat.
Oh, yeah, I want to.
sounds like that's
I want to be a juggernaut.
Sounds like that's what you want. Sounds like you want to. Let me not say that. On air. I'm not going to say that on air. But it sounds like you want to do some very risque investigations.
I do.
To get your story.
I do. Very interesting discussion we're having. We're just 10 minutes away from the 12 o'clock hour, where we will take a break for the headline news. But there is this jingle from UNESCO to celebrate World Radio Day. I would want for you guys to take a listen to this jingle. And when we return, we're going to open the phone lines to hear what you have to say to add to this program. We're just going to take a few calls, and if you can, make your comments or questions as concise as possible, as we don't have much time left. But let's hear from this jingle, and then we'll take your calls.
As the world changes, so does radio. This year, we join UNESCO in celebrating World Radio Day with the theme New World, New Radio. Radio, still as relevant as ever. The radio connection binds us together. During this pandemic, when social distance is the norm, radio is our comfort during the storm. From farmers in the fields to the drivers in the streets, radio remains a trusted friend. Radio informs, radio educates, radio connects. UNESCO World Radio Day 2021. Evolution, innovation, connection. Evolution, innovation, connection.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Honey, I have so much to do. And now I need to go to TDC Home and Building Depot to buy the new fridge.
Samantha, stop worrying. You can purchase the fridge and whatever else you may need with TDC Home and Building Depot's curbside and delivery service.
Really?
Just send your request via WhatsApp or email, pay online, and get your purchase by pickup or delivery.
Wow! I'm going to try TDC curbside and delivery service now.
Terms and conditions apply. Check our social media pages for all the details.
At The Cable, we know being local means supporting our own, and our customers deserve the best. Our customers deserve platinum. So now, all customers of The Cable qualify for our new Platinum Loyalty Card. An elite MasterCard experience that lets you support your own like never before. Instantly send money to any Platinum Loyalty member at home or around the world. Shop online or in person anywhere MasterCard is accepted. Save with no interest and 0 annual fees. And the best part? If you're a Cable customer, you are already pre-approved. Just visit the Cable building in Basse-Terre or sign up online at www.thecable.net. Get your Platinum Loyalty Card today because you deserve platinum. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Inside the News on WINN FM 98.9. You're listening to Devon Cornelius and Kevin Brown.
Yes.
Just to note, the numbers to call are 466-0989, 662-0989, and 762-0989. The WhatsApp number is just for WhatsApp. But just before we take that call, there is a comment that came in. Are you certain that ZIZ first aired in 1931? I don't think so. I think it was established in 1961, and by it was corporatized to become ZBC in the 1990s or early 2000. Sorry. Mr. Southfield died in 1979. Let Mr. Kevon, do you?
Okay, so so that the person knows where I got the information. I got it from the horse's mouth. I got it from ZIZ's page, and according to the page, in the mid 1930s, the sons of Administrator Douglas Roy Stewart and their friend Christian radio enthusiast Kenneth Malalou applied for permission to conduct experimental commercial broadcasting on the island and were issued the call sign ZIZ. When Stewart died and his family left the Caribbean, the radio station fell silent. In 1955, the idea of a radio station in St. Kitts was discussed, and the project became a favorite of C.A. Paul Southwell, who at the time was the Minister of Communications and Works. And then in 1961, the doors opened. That is where I got the information from.
Thank you so much, Kevon. Caller, please call us back. We're so sorry for that. The numbers to call are 466-0989, 762, and 662. We have a call. Good morning, caller. You are live on Inside the News. Caller, good morning. I'm not hearing that, caller.
Well, caller, you might have to call back because we are not.
They gone. Okay.
Apologies, caller. Please call back. But continue.
Yes. So, well, you know, we're approaching the end time, but we're gonna still take some calls for our listeners to be a part of this discussion today. Again, let me repeat the numbers for the first time listeners. We have a call. Let us take this call. Good morning, caller. You are live on Inside the News. Caller, you're having some bad luck. You're not getting in. Keep calling. Keep trying. We're here waiting for you to hear your comments and questions and for you to be a part of the discussion. The caller is back. Good morning, caller. You are live on Inside the News.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is that Mr. Cornelius?
Yes.
Mr. Cornelius, my name is Lee Graham.
Lee Graham?
Yes, I got to correct you on something here. With all respect.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't mentioned the name Marconi. Marconi is the Italian inventor. Marconi invented radio.
Well, I did mention that I could go exhaustively into what Marconi did.
Marconi invented radio.
He invented the first contraption to harness radio waves, correct?
Was IE, radio is IEE, inform, educate, entertain. Inventor, Italian, Marconi invented the radio. Check again, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your input.
Well, like I said, I could have gone through the entire exhaustive history of radio because it didn't start with Marconi. It started with Bose. I think is his last name, and he was the first one to do experiments on harnessing radio waves, and he was the first one to create a contraption that actually picks up radio waves, which is what we use to transmit the information through antennas. So he was the first one to do experiments with radio waves, and then Marconi came in and advanced that technology even further to create radio. And then after that is when broadcast radio became a thing for commercial use, and that's where Fassenden came into. And that's why I said the history is quite exhaustive, quite.
Well, we'll be here until 1:30, so we'll be talking some more about that.
But please, by all means, bring in all the information you can.
Yes.
Specific, even if you even have information on first radio stations in the region, as well. We'd love to hear some feedback on the first radio stations, the first local radio stations from the Caribbean region when they first started broadcasting outside of the BBC, of course.
There is another comment here from someone who's listening. The first video that was ever played on MTV was, quote unquote, "Video Killed the Radio Star" back in 1981. That would have started the movement. That started the movement to kill the radio. However, radio has survived the record players, CDs, MP3, and even now digital. During times of natural disasters, the radio was the only one left standing to relay messages when there was no internet. Radio needs to adjust daily to their listeners as technology also does or adjusts. Worldwide, one remaining constant is that the listener that tunes into morning news broadcast. However, after that, the numbers fall off during the day. To stay relevant, we need to adjust continuously. To stay relevant, we have to adjust continuously.
Did they suggest any adjustments to stay relevant?
No suggestions. No suggestions, but very interesting. The most interesting part was the first part where it says the video killed the radio star back in the 80s. I think every day people try every day to kill the radio, you know. Even people who work in radio. But guys, we are now at the 12 o'clock end time, so we will take a break for the headline news. And please stay tuned as we have so much more to add to this program. You are listening to New World, New Radio, Evolution, Innovation, Connection. This is WINN FM 98.9. It was a pleasure to have you guys listen to us. Stay tuned until 12:30 and beyond.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs. And make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world. Whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous, you can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air. We get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises, telephone number 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic, and residential care for older adults. It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 466-8221, or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
It's International World Radio Day Saturday. The theme is New World, New Radio. UNESCO notes that radio is a powerful medium for celebrating humanity in its diversity and constitutes a platform for democratic discourse. At the global level, radio remains the most widely consumed medium. Celebrated broadcaster Julian Rogers tells WINN FM 90.9 radio is enhanced by new technology.
Radio is also benefiting from that. The internet is there, and our radio is online, which means that the audience is expanded. I can't even count the amount of times, really. So you move from what we could really say is a narrow audience in the St Kitts and Nevis, and maybe listeners in Montserrat and whatever else. But now look at what's possible. Anybody, anywhere, anytime can listen to WINN FM. So that audience expansion has a value. I mean, the most difficult part of the equation, because if we could just transfer that value into dollars and cents, all our radio stations would be even far more valuable. That's one of the biggest challenges we have right now.
Mr. Rogers also offered words of advice to media workers celebrating the day.
People in the media, and not just radio now, must recognize the history of the development of the communication using. So we started off with a slate, I suppose. We got up to using pencils and pens. We got up to using word processors. We came up to using computers, etc. And just imagine that decades ago, we lumbered around with a huge tape recorder and huge cameras and whatever else. Everything now is confined to your phone. It is not possible for you to do many of the things you did with all that equipment with a phone. You can shoot an interview with somebody. You can do, you can instantly transcribe an interview and a conversation with somebody. So you have the copy, you have the video, you have the audio. All of that is in your hands, so that you really have no excuse.
Mr. Julian Rogers, the Managing Director of the Observer Media Group in Jamaica. Mr. Rogers is also the first General Manager of WINN FM 98.9 on St Kitts and Nevis.
The world is changing. Radio is evolving. For more than a century, radio has been the voice of our society. Voices and music have set the rhythm of our lives. Broadcasts mark their time. Radio has survived through the ages while remaining the relay of a world in perpetual change. The world is changing. Radio is innovating. With new technologies, radio has adapted to our new behaviors and lifestyles. As a medium of mobility, radio has become a multi-platform, accessible to everyone and everywhere.
The world is changing. Radio connects. When events change, our daily lives and habits are turned upside down. We have to adapt. Radio provides us with multiple services to exchange, inform, connect. On this World Radio Day, UNESCO and your local station are committed to ensuring that radio continues to evolve, innovate and connect. New world, new radio. For more information, www.worldradioday.org.
The St Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank is assuring its customers that while the institution is experiencing a disruption in service due to what it described as an IT security incident, there is no financial breach at the institution. The statement read in part, National Bank is currently experiencing an interruption in service caused by an IT security incident, and as a precautionary measure, we have preemptively taken our systems offline. The bank had initiated a complete shutdown of its systems, which resulted in customers experiencing longer wait times at the different branches across the Federation. In-bank services were extended until 5 p.m. Friday, and customers were assured that ATMs were functional. According to the statement, an urgent ongoing investigation has been launched to ascertain the circumstances behind the security incident. Long lines could be seen at the bank's headquarters in Bastia on Friday, usually a payday for some workers. Customers were earlier alerted Thursday afternoon via a press release and promos on WINN that the bank was experiencing an interruption to its systems, which resulted in the unavailability of online and mobile banking services. The Public Works Department in the Nevis Island Administration is carrying out repairs on the fisheries complex in Charlestown to improve safety at that facility. The project commenced on February 1st, 2021 and is expected to run for a total of 5 weeks. Director of the Public Works Department on Nevis, Jevon Williams, told the Nevis Department of Information on February 11th, 2021 that the area under repair had become a safety hazard for persons using the facility and had to be repaired. Immigration officers are now sporting a new look after the introduction of new uniforms aimed at branding the Immigration Department as an independent and separate unit from the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force. 3 years ago, in July 2018, the Immigration Department was removed from the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, with former Assistant Commissioner of Police Merslin Hughes at the helm as Chief Immigration Officer. A press release from the St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service says a logo was created and social media platforms, in addition to a webpage, and the new uniforms are the latest steps in the efforts to shore up its identity. The new look features blue button-down tops and dark gray bottoms with shoulder straps that display 1, 2, or 3 bars, depending on the officer's rank. St. Kitts and Nevis launched the International Year for the Elimination of Child Labor in the Americas Thursday under the theme #EndChildLabor 2021. The International Labour Organization deems the campaign necessary given the persistent child labor practices in some Caribbean and Latin American countries. Minister of Labour Wendy Phipps has stated that child labor practices are non-existent in St. Kitts and Nevis, but the Federation was obligated to do its part in spreading the message that child labor is fundamentally wrong and should be brought to an end. Ross University School of Veterinary Medicine awards 19 scholarships to students attending CFPC and the Nevis 6th Farm College. 19 students, 17 from St Kitts and 2 from Nevis, are awarded scholarships for the academic year 2020 to 2021. The students are from the Clarence Fitzroy Brandt College on St Kitts and the Nevis Sixth Form College. Ross University established the Ross University School of Veterinary Medicine Scholarships Awards program 4 years ago. It awards deserving students who have difficulties attending the Clarence Fitzroy Brandt College or the Nevis Sixth Form College. The scholarship program provides financial support for up to 2 years of tuition books and other fees, a stipend towards uniform and transportation, and 6 weeks of a paid internship at the Ross University. So far, 54 students have benefited from the scholarships offered by Ross University.
Live from NPR News, I'm Giles Snyder. Former President Donald Trump's Senate impeachment trial is resuming this hour. Senators are to vote after hearing closing statements. At least 17 Republicans would have to side with Democrats to convict Trump of the single charge against him. There had been speculation focused on Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, but McConnell has told colleagues this morning that he intends to vote to acquit. A Republican congresswoman is detailing a key phone call that gets to the heart of the case against Trump. Here's NPR's Amy Held.
Jamie Herrera Butler, Republican representative from Washington, was one of just 10 House GOP members to vote for Trump's impeachment. At the time, she cited his January 6th phone call with top House Republican Kevin McCarthy, last night detailing what she says was relayed to her about that conversation. McCarthy implored the president to call off the riot. Trump, in her telling, said it was Antifa, with McCarthy pushing back, saying it was the president's own supporters. Trump's response? They must be more upset about the election than you. The case against the former president says he not only summoned the mob, but failing to stop it was a dereliction of duty. Herrera Butler is asking those who witnessed the call to step forward, but as the trial winds down, it's unclear what impact her appeal might have. Amy Held, NPR News.
The Georgia State Legislature is scheduled to start debating bills in the coming week that would place increased restrictions on mail-in voting. Emil Moffitt is with member station WABE.
After Joe Biden became the first Democrat to carry Georgia in nearly 30 years, the state's Republicans, pushing baseless claims of voter fraud, began advocating for change. One GOP bill would force voters to include a photo ID when applying for and returning an absentee ballot. Another would ban ballot drop boxes. Yet another piece of legislation, which has garnered less support from top Republicans, would eliminate no-excuse absentee voting, something that's been in place since 2005. Georgia Democrats say the bills are aimed at making voting harder for low-income and minority residents. For NPR News, I'm Emil Moffitt in Atlanta.
The World Health Organization says it's made progress toward finding the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. NPR's Michaeline Duclef reports on an international team of scientists that have been in Wuhan, China.
Speaking at a press conference in Geneva, the leader of the mission, Dr. Peter Ben Imberek, says scientists now know that the coronavirus was circulating widely in Wuhan in December 2019. Both inside and outside of the Hunan seafood market where a big outbreak occurred.
So we have a much better understanding of what happened there in December, much better understanding of what happened in the market, the role of the market, but this is only the first step.
Dr. Imberek says the team still doesn't know how the coronavirus got into the Hunan market. They're investigating both fresh and frozen meat as possible sources of the virus.
You're listening to NPR News. In Myanmar, demonstrators against the February 1st coup returned to the streets for an 8th straight day today. Neither the military nor the protesters showing any signs of backing down. Michael Sullivan reports from neighboring Thailand.
Protesters turned out in large numbers in Myanmar's biggest city, Yangon, and in its second largest, Mandalay, to the north, despite a ban on gatherings of more than 5 people. Today's demonstrations occurred on the birthday of General Aung San, Myanmar's independence leader and the father of Aung San Suu Kyi, the civilian leader of the democratically elected government now held by the military. Authorities continue to arrest politicians and activists seen to be opponents of the coup. The military says it carried out the takeover because of widespread fraud in last November's general election, an election Aung San Suu Kyi's party won in a landslide. For NPR News, I'm Michael Sullivan in Chiang Rai.
Tennis is being played today at the Australian Open, but without crowds at Melbourne Park. Melbourne and the rest of the state of Victoria have entered a 5-day lockdown in response to a coronavirus outbreak linked to a quarantine hotel at the Melbourne airport. Victoria Premier Daniel Andrews says there are 20 confirmed cases in the cluster.
I know that a lot of people will be hurting today. This is not the position that Victorians wanted to be in. But I can't have a situation where in 2 weeks' time we look back and we wish we had taken these decisions now.
Andrews says play at the Australian Open will be allowed because the competitors are at their workplace, a final scheduled for next weekend. I'm Giles Snyder, NPR News.
BBC News, I'm John Shea. US senators may vote as early as today on whether to convict Donald Trump of inciting insurrection. Both sides will first make lengthy closing arguments, with the Democrats facing an insurmountable task in convincing the necessary 17 Republicans to vote with them. Barbara Platt-Usher has the latest from Washington.
It's been barely a month since the Capitol riot, but most of this historic impeachment trial is already complete. Democratic prosecutors argued that Mr. Trump unleashed the mob through an orchestrated campaign of violent rhetoric and false claims. His defense lawyers countered that he never intended for the violence to happen and accused Democrats of a political witch hunt. In this partisan climate, it's most unlikely the Senate will be able to muster the two-thirds majority needed to convict. But some Republicans appear to still be considering their vote, and there are still questions about what and when the president knew about the attack as it unfolded.
Myanmar's military leaders, who seized power in a coup almost 2 weeks ago, have released a list of 7 opposition campaigners they want to arrest under the seldom-used charge of disturbing tranquility. Here's our Asia-Pacific editor, Celia Hatton.
One of the protesters named on the military's most wanted list has been called Myanmar's voice of a generation. Min Ko Naing is a former student leader who once fronted a pro-democracy uprising in 1988. In a video that appeared to have been filmed during Saturday's protests, Mr. Min urged the current anti-coup campaign to continue and denounced the military's use of nighttime raids to carry out arrests. Hundreds of thousands of people across Myanmar are continuing with spirited protests, calling for their elected government to be reinstated.
A former head of the European Central Bank, Mario Draghi, has been sworn in as Italy's new Prime Minister. The country is facing the twin crises of the coronavirus pandemic and an economic recession. Mark Lowen reports.
With the 6th highest COVID death toll in the world, a sluggish vaccination programme and the deepest recession in decades, Italy has turned to what it hopes are the safest of hands. Mario Draghi, once the governor of the Bank of Italy, then president of the European Central Bank, will lead the country's 67th government since the Second World War. His cabinet comprises almost all the political parties and some technocrats. Their priority, working out how to spend more than €200 billion of EU recovery funds.
The security forces in Somalia say they've foiled a potentially massive suicide attack in the capital, Mogadishu. The police chased a suspicious vehicle for several kilometres, opening fire on it near the presidential palace. The car blew up at a checkpoint, wounding at least 7 civilians. The Islamist group Al-Shabaab said it was behind the attempted attack. World News from the BBC. At least 10 people have been injured when a gas tanker exploded near a customs post on Afghanistan's border with Iran. Pictures on social media showed a huge plume of fire and smoke and people running to safety. Eyewitnesses said several fuel trucks had also caught fire at the site in the town of Islam Kala. One of the international investigators examining the origins of COVID-19 says China withheld raw patient data on early cases in the city of Wuhan, where the outbreak started. Dominic Dwyer said that despite repeated requests, the World Health Organization team were given only a summary of the data on 174 very early cases they were interested in.
If you're really trying to go back to the very beginning, to try and understand the sources, in the ideal world, you would go through it patient by patient by patient. And that's what we call a line listing. Now, obviously, all of that stuff is anonymous. You don't want the patient names or anything, but you want the details on, what were the questions asked, what were the responses, and what were the sort of analyses of the data.
Beijing has insisted it was transparent with the WHO investigators. The first batches of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine are arriving in Lebanon as the country prepares to begin its vaccination program. The launch will take place at midday on Sunday at the headquarters of the Prime Minister, where the outgoing Premier Hassan Diab will receive the first dose. The minority Czech government is holding discussions with 14 regional governors amid fears that Parliament's refusal to extend a state of emergency will hamper the fight against coronavirus. The current state of emergency ends at midnight on Sunday. Although some restrictions will remain in place after that, the nighttime curfew and limits on freedom of movement will end and shops will be able to reopen. And that's the latest BBC World News.
That was the WINN FM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 466-8221, or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world. Whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous, you can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air. We get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises, telephone number 466-9595.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs. And make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
gift for Dad's birthday. Click. Ooh, Janice's retirement party. Click. Ah, outfit for my girl's wedding. Click.
With TDC Airbox, you click, we ship. Register for your free U.S. mailbox today and shop all your favorite stores online. Enjoy the convenience, free consolidation up to £10, competitive rates, free package tracking account with live notifications, free delivery, and of course, excellent customer service. Visit our website at tdcairbox.com and register today. For more information, visit our offices at the C.A. Paul Industrial Site in St. Kitts and Penny's Industrial Site in Nevis. Follow us on social media at TDC Airbox. TDC Airbox. You click, we ship. Terms and conditions apply.
At The Cable, we know being local means supporting our own, and our customers deserve the best. Our customers deserve platinum. So now, all customers of The Cable qualify for our new Platinum Loyalty Card. An elite MasterCard experience that lets you support your own like never before. Instantly send money to any Platinum Loyalty member at home or around the world. Shop online or in person anywhere MasterCard is accepted. Save with no interest and 0 annual fees. And the best part? If you're a Cable customer, you are already pre-approved. Just visit the Cable building in Bastere or sign up online at www.thecable.net. Get your Platinum Loyalty Card today because you deserve platinum. Terms and conditions apply. The Cable, we know being local means supporting our own, and our customers deserve the best. Our customers deserve platinum. So now, all customers of The Cable qualify for our new Platinum Loyalty Card. An elite MasterCard experience that lets you support your own like never before. Instantly send money to any Platinum Loyalty member at home or around the world. Shop online or in person anywhere MasterCard is accepted. Save with no interest and 0 annual fees. And the best part? If you're a Cable customer, you are already pre-approved. Just visit the Cable building in Bastere or sign up online at www.thecable.net. Get your Platinum Loyalty Card today because you deserve platinum. Terms and conditions apply.
Imagine a place that has all that you need, all of the things for your business to succeed. Furniture, copiers, laptops and more. TDC Business Center is your #1 store. Print and copy and scan and fax. Our copy center does all of that. If you're having a party and you need chairs and tents, we've got all your needs at grand rentals for rent. The TDC Business Center has everything your business needs. Superior copy and printing services, business equipment and furniture, and a wide array of renting materials for all occasions. TDC Business Center, providing solutions that work. People make the world go
Good morning. Welcome back to Inside the News. We're
Good
here
afternoon,
with
sir.
good afternoon. Oh my God, I just wake up. I am here with Julius Giddings. He is a media trainer and professional. Good afternoon, Mr. Giddings. How are you?
And good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So you're talking to Devon Cornelius, and I am here with
Kevin Brown, yep.
And we're having a conversation on the radio. Today is World Radio Day, And we are looking at the theme, which is New World, New Radio, Evolution, Innovation, Connection. And we decided to touch base with you for us to have a very meaningful and fruitful discussion.
Well, let's hope that happens, Devon. I think that it is indeed a new world, and it's a new era for radio. But it's a renewal in some respects, but it's also an opportunity to get back to basics, to delve back into what radio really is about, what it really means, what it really can do, how we can engage our audiences and give them meaningful radio. And how we can use things like sound and search for unheard voices. Lots of people in St Kitts and Nevis and across the Caribbean who have a contribution to make, but are simply not heard for whatever reason. And radio affords the opportunity to reach those voices, to have that kind of plurality in a way that no other medium can. And so you'd have thought that with this new world, with social media and the technologies and so on, that radio would have, gone off into some sort of dark corner, crawled up and died. Quite the opposite has happened.
Definitely.
It's been rejuvenated by different forms, by streaming, by podcasting, by the fact that this station, the sound of my voice, can be heard in Kenya, Kansas, and Kazakhstan, as well as Kingston, Jamaica. So I think that it is a new world, but it's a new opportunity for us to do what radio has really always been about, effectively reaching people through the magic and theater of radio, the imagination, the thinking man's medium, as I've always called it, and to do so in a way that really has impact on our societies for the good.
Well, Julius, some persons have said that radio is not important. Some persons have said that radio is no longer relevant. When you spoke, you made mention of the fact that, there is no technology involved in radio, and that is a conversation. That is something that we touched on earlier, where you can now do a live stream, whether it is via Facebook, YouTube, or the other social media platforms. However, there are some persons who believe that Facebook Live, YouTube Live, WhatsApp group chats will make radio irrelevant. What is your take on that?
Well, two things. One, what kind of radio are we talking about? So, for example, if you're talking about music formats, playing all the hot hits, all the latest hits, that format, the research shows, is actually in decline across the globe. Fewer and fewer people are actually listening to radio, or that kind of radio, for that kind of reason, because of the technology, because they why wait for somebody to program my favorite tune when I can have it in a continuous loop in my head all day long, or a selection of my favorite tunes, which will be different from Kevin's, which will be different from Devon's, which will be different from Clive's and whoever. And so that technology has made it almost irrelevant for that kind of radio, that for too long, owners in the Caribbean, programmers across the world, thought that would be the great money spinner, and it isn't. So the people who have mortgages, who have to send their children to school, who have to vote in a general election or by-election, who are making sure that the CXC, for example, does gives good examinations of their students. Those are the kinds of things that radio will be able to answer. Now, sure, you can put the radio on Facebook Live, and you can put the radio on YouTube, and in some cases, some people have decided to stick a camera inside the studio and stream that. That's all well and good.
Yes.
Whatever other means of reaching people where they are. But I find it significant that just about every smartphone that's been made over the last 10, 15 years, and in fact, even radios that were not smartphones, the cell phones really have all FM radio technology in them. whether it's actually utilized through an app or not. There's an FM radio circuit in each and every smartphone. So why is that? Now I find that's something that we should exploit rather than suggest that it's an indication of a decline or an irrelevance of a medium. And the second thing is, let's be realistic. When you go on Facebook and you get, a few likes and some ticks and subscribers, and you think you've made impact, the vast majority of people, unless it's really, some viral video which lasts all of a few hours, usually not based in fact, very often meant to stir up a feeling that is either partisan or simply some conspiracy theory or something like that, or inciting people to commit acts of violence, as we've seen in the United States, or not to take a vaccine that could actually save their lives. That's not what we have given the better part of our lives to be a part of. And even so, from a very practical perspective, look at bandwidth. It costs money, even to have a conversation. If you think you're cheating the telephone company by having a WhatsApp call,
you're not.
That requires data still. If you're watching television, if you're listening to the radio, that requires bandwidth. How many people do you know who say to you, well, I can't talk to you now, or I can't look at that email you sent me, or I can't listen to that video right now, watch that video right now, because I need to get to some Wi-Fi. That's not, the radio reaches you wherever you are.
Right.
It doesn't matter, whether you have bandwidth or whether you can afford bandwidth or not. If you can afford a radio, you have access. So it can't be a situation of, well, it's either or. It's all of the above. We need the social media to enrich our programming, yes, to engage more people with radio, but radio that's meaningful, radio that of the kind that WINN FM has been doing for 20 years. That's the kind of radio and more of it that's required, not less. And it's just a matter of educating to the private sector of the business relevance of radio, the value of radio in selling goods and services, rather than depending on a scattershot approach of social media, which, it make you feel good for a moment. It's like a Chinese meal. You're very soon wondering, well, what is it you ate after consuming it? Radio has a little more longevity than that. And I think the relevance is in the kind of radio that we put on, not the technology or the means by which people access that information.
Great. And do you have something to add?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was really engrossed. This is Kevin here, Mr. Gittins. I was really engrossed in what you were saying, and some things jumped out at me when you said you thought we should get back to basics and basically strip down what radio actually was, get rid of all the pomp and circumstance and the fanfare, and get back to the fact that radio is as resilient as any other strong-standing media, or even more so, because I think it's one of the strongest modes of communication apart from literature, and the fact that for some reason there is this reliance on social media and the Internet of Things to bring about some significant change towards radio. But you did mention that in every cell phone there is an FM, the ability to pick up FM signals. So I think one of the falters is that because we're so engrossed in digital things and in the Internet of Things, we have let any significant experimentation and development of radio in that regard, so that even if a transmitter would go down in a hurricane, if we do have our cell phones and our cell phones have power because they're connected to the FM, the radio could still be heard through that medium. And I think that is one of the things that we're faltering in is the advancement of radio, because for some reason it's not seen as significant.
Well, Kevin, I don't know. My experience has been a bit the other way around with respect to natural disasters such as the ones that we encounter in the Caribbean. Most times the cell phone circuits if they may not all go down, but they certainly go down in critical areas and far-flung areas, whereas radio is still up. You may have a backup generator, and if you have a proper setup, you can be on the air almost interminably. And then what happens after the hurricane is that people are crowding the circuits, jamming the telephone circuits, trying to reach out to each other. Are you safe? Are you okay? Did you hear about Miss Jones up the road, et cetera, et cetera? And you still need radio in many respects to get basic information out to the community and get information from the community and relay that effectively to emergency planners. So again, there's no, I'm not suggesting for a moment that it's either or. It's all of the above.
Precisely.
And to me, the opportunities are tremendous. When I started as a youngster, as a teenager in radio, you know, I fell in love with it through listening to shortwave radio and among other sources. And the entire world literally was opened up through shortwave radio. I just spent, you know, some time preparing a meal, and it was in the kitchen, and listening to my internet radio, which provides crackle-free, hiss-less, noiseless, high-fidelity audio of an impeachment hearing or a meeting of the House of Commons or a really fine program where two people are walking along a valley describing its flora and fauna, or a history of something that is significant in the lives of many of us, or the history of vaccines. I mean, the entire world is available now. And here's an opportunity now for Caribbean radio program makers to get in on that ground floor and to contribute solid content, things that people in Barbados don't know, for example, about St Kitts and Nevis. This remarkable federal nation is the only one of its kind in the Caribbean. You know, we have two island nations, but they're all unitary states.
Yes.
St Kitts and Nevis is an interesting history, just going back to round about the time of my birth, the whole brouhaha with Anguilla. I heard that story, even read it in the history books. I was brought face to face with that story and the human lives that were involved in the Anguilla, shall we say, secession, through radio, through an excellent radio program that was produced, bringing those voices to me. So there's tremendous opportunity. More than 20 years ago, when I was at Kana Radio, we produced a daily magazine program that used internet to feed the program to an international rebroadcaster. And so we were being heard all around the world on an organization known as the World Radio Network, which still exists. Sadly, Kana Radio no longer does. But, you know, we've gone through these eras, and I look forward to the next era where there is regional broadcasting. We've had the BBC Caribbean service after the Second World War. We've had the Windward Islands Broadcasting Service, which linked the Windward Islands up until the early 1970s, when they broke off and formed their own DBS and Radio St. Lucia and NBC 705 and so on. We've had a second BBC Caribbean service in the 80s. We had Kana Radio. And all through that, from 1963 until around 2005, there was Radio Antilles. So you've got these eras where radio is being reborn and connecting Caribbean people. So I look forward to, you know, Kevon and Devon. You sound like a pair of West Indies opening batsmen. Kevon and Devon, I look forward to you guys now taking some stick to the ball and really knocking it out of the park and creating the kind of radio that will engage Caribbean young people elsewhere. People want to hear, they don't want to just hear music anymore.
No.
They also don't want to hear partisan talk, hyper-partisan talk. And that is something that I'm really worried about. Radio stations that have been created rather cynically by political parties, solely for the purpose of getting themselves elected or re-elected. That's not the purpose of radio. The purpose of a political party is to get people elected. The purpose of radio, so far as I understood it, was to provide information to help people make their own decisions. And you can't make an informed decision if you're only getting one side of the story from a party radio station. So here's a challenge to connect with people, connect to people, and to get the kind of information that they so desperately need so that they can really make the right kinds of decisions at a time of great uncertainty, from climate change to the state of our democracies to a pandemic that we're struggling through. Now is the time for solid information that radio can provide very effectively, very quickly, very cheaply, and to counter some of the misinformation and deliberate disinformation that thrives on social media.
Correct. Thank you so much, Julia. Sound words. Kevon, do you have anything to add to what Mr. Gittings said?
Oh, well, earlier in his conversation, he was talking about how when he fell in love with sound. And I think one of the things that made me fall in love with radio was when I heard War of the Worlds for the first time, and I heard the history about how people thought it was actually a real occurrence because of how real the sound effects were and how real the emotions behind the script was. And that is what made me fall in love with sound, with audio production, with storytelling through sound. And I think that is one of the strongest characteristics of radio.
Right. And if I may...
I look forward to hearing the microphone being stuck in the middle of the Central Market in Bastille, or perhaps in Piccadilly Circus, to pick up that if you're talking about a traffic story or something in the heart of the city. Take people to where they are.
Yes.
Take people to places they have never been. If you really want to tell a story about the impact of climate change on your coastline, why do you think that you can't have pictures for your ear? You know, always remember the story of the child who was asked whether they preferred radio to television, and the child said, "I prefer radio because the pictures are better." And that is an extraordinary opportunity right there to engage our children as well in radio. I had a really wonderful opportunity to do that. I grew up on children's radio myself in Barbados, and I had an opportunity to help create a little bit of that in Antigua. And I would love to see some of that come back. That's where the theater of radio can work. And, you know, don't worry about the devices. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, I guarantee you, did not give their children tablets and smartphones and laptops and computers. They gave them experiences. And we can give our children experiences through radio, through books, and using radio to bring more children to books, and books to bring more children to radio. And I think that's where the imagination, the potential, the brain power of our communities can grow, not just giving them either music or just jabbering at them about why my party is better than your party. I think we need to do a better job of being, you know, really good guardians of our countries by doing the very best we can. And yes, getting back to basics of sound, music, silence, yes, where appropriate, and speech, blending that pot together to get really great radio. I think it's a really exciting time, and you are fortunate to have. If I can just say this in closing, and I've said this in another interview on this World Radio Day elsewhere, the tremendous contribution of Caribbean people to radio. Many of them, Clive Backus is following in the footsteps of. When you talk about Hugh Chumley, and I'd urge you to find out about these individuals, Rafiq Khan, Olga Lucille, Claremont Tate, over Bobby Reese and Dennis Sion. There's tremendous contribution made by a group of people in a little South American Caribbean country called Guyana. And these people have grown up on really fine radio and took it all across the Caribbean and gave people like me a start. And I think it's important that we do that as well, that we bring other young people along on this incredible journey of the mind through radio. I really thank you, though, Kevin and Devon, for this opportunity to talk to you on World Radio Day.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Gittins.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gittins. It was indeed
a pleasure.
A pleasure.
My
Stay
pleasure
safe.
entirely. Take care, guys.
You too.
You are listening to WINN FM 98.9 for another edition of Inside the News. Today is World Radio Day. The theme again is New World, New Radio, Evolution, Innovation, Connection. Let us take a short break to hear from our sponsors, and when we return, we will continue our discussion, and we will open the phone lines as well to hear from the callers who are trying their utmost best to get in today. We're so sorry, but we'll open the phone lines after to hear from you. Let's take the short break.
At The Cable, we know being local means supporting our own, and our customers deserve the best. Our customers deserve platinum. So now, all customers of The Cable qualify for our new Platinum Loyalty Card. An elite MasterCard experience that lets you support your own like never before. Instantly send money to any Platinum Loyalty member at home or around the world. Shop online or in person anywhere MasterCard is accepted. Save with no interest and 0 annual fees. And the best part? If you're a Cable customer, you are already pre-approved. Just visit the Cable building in Basse-Terre or sign up online at www.thecable.net. Get your Platinum Loyalty Card today because you deserve platinum. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Honey, I have so much to do. And now I need to go to TDC Home and Building Depot to buy the new fridge.
Samantha, stop worrying. You can purchase the fridge and whatever else you may need with TDC Home and Building Depot's curbside and delivery service.
Really?
Just send your request via WhatsApp or email, pay online, and get your purchase by pickup or delivery.
Wow! I'm going to try TDC curbside and delivery service now.
Terms and conditions apply. Check our social media pages for all the details.
People make the world go
Right out of the gate.
We have some calls. Let's take this for first call. Good afternoon, caller. You are live on Inside the News.
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your special guest.
Good afternoon.
And let me congratulate all the radio stations in the Federation.
Yes.
On World Radio Day. Radio play a very important role in the day-to-day lives of the people in St Kitts and Nevis. But I want to say something because I don't know if it is the guest or you. I think you were well prepared as it relates to your open statement, as it relates to radio. Because you started with amateur radio in the 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to the 1800s, which is 1890. Amateur radio began to establish itself in around 1917, thereabout. You had a lot of scientists, doctors, people up there. Macaulay was the first ham. But my reason for calling in today is to say that amateur radio in St Kitts is in danger. I would have made about 3 pleas on various media houses in St. Kitts because of my concern as an amateur radio operator. Broadband over power line. It is jamming our signals in the amateur radio spectrum. Sometimes I can't hear, I don't know what is going on. You can hear me on the other side, but I can't hear you. And then you guys are aware that communication is two-way. The most important thing is that we offer a service, voluntary service to the people of our country. In particular, when there are times of needs, man-made or natural disaster, whether it is hurricane or earthquake, even in COVID.
But not just
because we're
locally,
there at the
regionally too.
NDOC. And I have appealed to the government to look into the matter. All they're telling you, we're addressing it, it will be resolved. But we are experiencing this matter for the last 4 years. And so I am calling on Minister Keela Byron. She's the Minister of Technology. The Attorney General Vincent Byron Juicy, you're the AG. And the minister responsible for Skelec. I mean, could you imagine they have given them a cease and desist order to stop? And they're continuing. I mean, they're just jamming the signals. It is terrible. And so I use this point in time at World Radio Day to show them where you started with ham radio. We are the forerunners. And when everything is down in the government telecommunication, we let in the world know, the people of St Kitts and Nevis, what the situation is like in the country. But we won't be able to do it if the power company continues to send data in the amateur radio spectrum. I would expect a fix, and a fix long ago. I would expect that the power company would have equipment to detect and track where this interference is coming from. 4 years is 10 minutes too long and something just not right. So once again, I am making this appeal to those responsible in government to get this problem fixed as of now. Thank you for the time, and once again, congratulations on your program, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for your contribution to our program today. We have another call. Good afternoon, caller. You are live on Inside the News. Caller, good afternoon. You're live on Inside the News. Okay, we seem to have lost that call. There is a comment here on the Facebook Live, if I may just read it. Maria Sherry says, the radio is still very relevant in our society today. There are still places in which individuals are challenged in terms of access to technology and the internet. Very, very true. Radio is a very important tool for media literacy as well. And she used the opportunity to wish us a happy World Radio Day 2021 and to the team here at WINN FM. Thank you so much, Maria Sherry, and continue to stay safe while we go through this pandemic. It is World Radio Day. But if I may, tying or shift the discussion a little bit, or to touch on a different, let me say, a subtopic. We're living in a pandemic.
Yes.
How has the pandemic affected the operations of radio as a whole and radio stations, media companies? For some, a very negative impact. For others, a positive impact. But I think during the entire pandemic and in the early stages of it, where most countries went into lockdown, radio, in my opinion, stood tall like the Great China Wall. Because remember I said earlier, there were people who were going crazy. You're home, you're locked down, and you got tired of the internet. I got tired of the internet. I got tired of Netflix and TV and all those other stuff. Radio, some nice, sweet music, whether it's soca, gospel, reggae, you name it.
I read, but I definitely.
And so I think radio is still relevant and will remain relevant. However, some persons have said you have to adjust, and I agree. You have to adjust to your audience.
And I think one of the biggest adjustments, and I think this is probably where you were leading to, or one of the aspects that you were leading to, one of the biggest changes was, as you mentioned in the operations of a radio station, is how interviews are conducted. And a lot of media houses have adopted, if they could, either not having the person in, by either using the phone lines to call them to have a phone interview, as we had with Mr. Gittens.
Right.
That is one of the ways that radio can connect us. Another way was through Zoom. A lot of interviews were done via Zoom. Or have been done via Zoom. Another integration of using the Internet of Things to facilitate the expansion and the constant growth of radio. So that was one of the things I think radio did to adapt during the pandemic.
Great. Let us take this call. Good afternoon, caller. You are live on Inside the News. Caller, good afternoon. You are live on our program Inside the News. Hello, good afternoon.
We're having some audio issues, it seems. I thought I heard them for 1 second.
They're still on the line? Okay. We're so sorry for that inconvenience, caller. We are still taking your calls at 466-0989 and 762-662. Also, remember we have a WhatsApp number, but that number is not for calling. It's just for your messages and questions and comments. It's 662-2204. 662-2204. We are still taking your calls. It is now just 6 minutes past the hour of 1 here in our studios at WINN FM 98.9, and you are listening to another edition of Inside the News. But we have a call. Good afternoon, caller. You are live on our program.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. You are live.
Good afternoon. In a little community like ours, how deeply investigative and objective do you think a radio station can be? Let me give you an example. If the radio station is perceived by, say, the corporate community or significant members of the corporate community as being hostile to them, or a government, that radio station exposes itself to the risk of losing a lot of business and going out of business. And whereas in a big country with big markets, it might be less risky to do that. Even in big countries, you have entities like National Public Radio, and you have BBC, which is government-owned, but the politicians can't really tamper with that. You have Al Jazeera and so forth. The point is, radio is about entertainment, but it's about information as well. From insofar as the investigative / journalistic aspect of it is concerned, do you really believe that we will have objectivity and forthrightness and independence in our media entities here like you do say in what appears to be like a National Public Radio or Al Jazeera or other entities like those.
Thank you so much. So sorry that you left because I wanted to engage with you, Mr. Astefan. But very, very interesting question. We know that in media, radio, journalism, there are a number of challenges that one would face. And as I have learned, is that there are going to be people who admire you. And then there are going to be some who despise you. But working in this field, radio, media, you have to be able to be frank and candid at times, and touch on certain issues that the everyday man wouldn't touch on. But let us take this call. Good afternoon, caller. You are live on Inside the News. Caller, good afternoon. You are live on Inside the News.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Yes. That comment, I prefer radio, but the pictures are better. I think that summarized the influence and reach of radio because it really tickles the mind and stimulates imagination. I think radio has survived because of its portability. I mean, it's not recommended that you look at a TV screen or any screen while you're driving, but listening to the radio is certainly acceptable. I think the key, though, is content.
Yes.
Regardless of the media, content is key. We can have access to over a wide variety of media platforms, but with most of them, you get the good, the bad, and the ugly. Right? At least with radio, at least for the time being, you have some kind of standard. Even if they're just political radio stations, I think once their programs are declared, their programs are declared as such, so people expect propaganda, they're useful. Just like anything else that is viewed as having the capacity and the capability to influence opinion, there will always be an attempt to misuse and abuse it. But at least with radio, it's a medium that still have some semblance of regulation, and I think in conjunction with the programs that they produce, the journalists that they have in them, they have a huge role to play in setting standards, reinforcing values, and upholding societal norms, and educating the general populace, of course. Okay? Much of the standards many of the standards are self-governing, but at least there are standards contrary to a lot of what we see, like I said, on social media. Okay? I often wonder, though, what would happen if the technology of radio waves are not there to propagate radio. Is the programming just as important as the mode of transmission? I guess is the question. I mean, the technical details of whether FM is better than AM or long wave, the reach of long wave and this medium wave. Well, I think all those are out the door now. Bearing in mind, you can have so-called radio in inverted commas being transmitted over regular lines, internet lines, and that sort of thing. Okay, but you can't help wonder. And of course, the radio, the amateur radio came into the mix. You see how powerful radio can be. It actually drew out a long-lost commentator to come to your program and give his views. I just wondered if those things, the technology involved, that's behind us, and it's now a case of just looking at content, programming, the types of journalists you have there, whether do they cater or pander, do they actually cater to things like independent thought, good analyses, and so on, or do they pander or just represent the one-sided view, a skewed view of things? So I don't know, Rich, do you think the transmission side, the mode of transmission, is the important factor here, or is it the content, the kinds of programs that are produced that will actually determine whether or not radio is going to have a future ahead of it?
I think, if I may add, I think both. Content, yes, is very important because when you listen to the radio, you want to hear things that really make sense. Because for me, listening to the radio is an opportunity for you to learn. So for those persons who may not like to read, or for those persons who do not like to watch the TV or go and do research via the internet, listening to the radio and knowing that there is good content, educational programs where you can learn a thing or two, whether it is from politics, health, science, the climate, you name it.
The thing is, content has always been around. There has always been content. It's just that the mode of delivering that content has continually shifted. We started with hieroglyphics, orators, literature, radio, television, CDs, DVDs, floppy disks, hard drives, USBs, the internet, the mode of transportation.
But is it though that radio should see itself as influencing the audience, as opposed to the audience tuning in to reinforce their particular viewpoints and biases and
I think you're touching on one of life's very difficult debates on humans, because we tend to be I don't want to generalize too much, but people tend to be homogenous in their way of thinking. They like to surround themselves with people that share the same view as them. Mm-hmm. Whenever they're faced with any kind of cognitive dissonance, anyone that challenges their beliefs, they think of it as an attack and probably would go on the defense instead of welcoming that. I won't say that everybody is like that. I would say that a lot of people are like that, that they don't like to be challenged. They don't like their beliefs to be challenged. Talk about religion. Religion is a very hot topic. If you challenge somebody on religion, on Christianity, let's say for instance, and they're not willing to listen to you, they actually hear what you're saying, they would automatically go on the defensive. So,
but then if it becomes a free for all,
at that point, communication breaks down.
Being just like any other media.
Wait, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying if it becomes a free for all, where people, as you said, homogenous, or people might gravitate to like opinions, doesn't it run the risk of being just like any other media where, anything goes and there are no standards? I mean, you choose what you want. Nothing is there to set the value system. Nothing is there to say, well, this is right and this is wrong.
Well, you were touching on a second thing that I was going to bring up, and that is an agenda or an angle. Because as you were hinting to, there are people out there, there are media houses out there that seek to refrain from that homogeneous way of thinking. So they facilitate conversations from all angles. They don't just anticipate two sides. They will anticipate 4, 5, 6 sides, however many sides, but that is still an angle. That is still an agenda. They're trying to oust the homogeneous way of thinking.
And the final thing, the economic aspect of it. I guess with advertisements and sponsorships, if radio did not exist, do you think something else would just fill the vacuum, or is radio indispensable insofar as that aspect, the economic aspect, is concerned? I mean, I think we know that it's kind of indispensable insofar as the social impact and political impact is concerned, but the economics of it, is that the best way to reach people in terms of getting them to spend and use their buying power and, those sorts of things?
If I may add, yes, because you may have businesses there's some businesses that believe, or some people that believe, well, I'm just going to use Facebook. I'm just going to use my WhatsApp. I'm just going to use my YouTube to reach my audience, or to reach the public, to sell my business, to market my business. But understand, and to a point that I touched on earlier, or rather a comment on our Facebook Live, we know that there are challenges that people across the world face in terms of access to technology and access to internet. And so
access to information, period.
Right. So if one would want to just use the internet or social media to market, I think it's going to be very difficult, because you would have a situation where you would only be reaching the people that you follow on that social media platform.
But again, you're delving further and further into economics and financing, because and marketing, because there is such a thing as target market. So if you're targeting the radio audience, then of course you would go to the radio audience. If you're targeting people who spend most of their time on the internet or on Facebook or on social media, you would go towards more social media. You're delving deeper into towards marketing and economics.
And is that the most efficient way? Because everybody listens to radio, but if you throw, for instance, an ad out there, only a small percentage might be interested in that particular ad, that particular product, whereas the vast majority may not. Can radio really service everybody? Should it try to service everybody, or should it look for niches, niches to operate in?
Interesting. But what I'll say is that, I mean, radio meets you wherever you are. Radio meets you wherever you are.
It tries to.
Well,
it tries to reach you wherever you
for the most part, radio meets you wherever you are. I have, heard complaints from people, talking to other people, saying that I prefer radio. I wouldn't try to listen radio through the internet, or listen to a program or whatever through the internet, because at that time I may be on my farm, I may be down by the bay, so I won't have access to the internet. So I have my little radio there in my battery, and I'm listening to you.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that is nostalgia, though, as opposed to practicality, because you can, like I said, listen to radio over a number of different media.
Yes, you can, definitely.
But there is something about a transistor radio. Well, I guess it's not transistor anymore, but
that
you can just pick up and tune in, and you know what you have.
Right, but if
you can do so with a number of different stations, as opposed to doing the same over the internet.
Right.
I don't know.
And if
when you really think about it, it makes no difference. It's just a matter of it. But there's something, I guess, traditional and the old time feeling when the internet wasn't around, when that was the thing, so to speak. That you can still do it.
I think you're touching on why people still listen to vinyl, because they like the scratches of the music. They don't appreciate how it sounds digitally.
What I would say, even though you may have the radio being listened to via different platforms, the fact is it goes right back down to the core. It goes right back down to radio, Because I said earlier, you can listen to the radio with your phone, in your vehicle, on websites, on apps, whatever. But it goes
and it's so amazing that a personality would just come out differently if they switch to TV or visual media. It's something about a voice being associated with radio, as opposed to other media that is really fascinating. It doesn't automatically mean if you're good in radio, you're going to be good in TV.
Right,
and
right.
vice versa. But that's interesting.
Right.
Okay then.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your input. We are still taking your calls as we approach the 1:30 end time. It is now just 24 minutes past the hour of 1 here in our studios. The numbers to call are 466-0989, 762-662, and of course, we have our WhatsApp number, 662-2204. Let us take this call. Good afternoon, caller. You are live on Inside the News.
Hey, good afternoon, Devon and Kevon. And good afternoon, Mr. McMahon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, happy World Radio Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to commend all of the workers in the various radio stations at home and abroad. Radio increase your scope of knowledge. And right now, as the world goes, you don't need to have an electric radio. You have your phone. And, if you really want to be informed, I was going to say educated, but informed, radio help. And you do not have to confine yourself to one station. I hear some people say, my radio stay on the station all day. That to me sounds kind of backward, sorry. Because they offer different things.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose if you just want to hear one kind of thing, But it is better to be exposed to different things. And
I agree.
The one from Barbados, he said something which I found very interesting, which I do. I like to hear radio stations from other Caribbean islands. There's one particular station in St Kitts who every morning, in the early morning, they would play news from Guyana, Trinidad, Dominica. It gives you a sense of connection. Mm-hmm. And I like what you all do. After you do the local news, you might have NPS or another one.
HTS, we would have HTS from St. Lucia.
Yeah, National Radio.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera or NPR, yeah.
Right. I like to hear those add-ons, because the world is big. And when you feel more in tune, you hear our people talking about Africa. Maybe you need to connect with one of, get some news from one of the stations. That's what I used to do when I could see. I would go in and they put in a country on the internet. You want to hear a station in Lagos. And more attention should be given. This morning somebody was calling the names and they left out Dominion, which is a Christian station.
Yes.
I don't think it was intentional.
No, it wasn't.
No, but that's a very good station. And they used to have the TBN in Nevis. Nevis has one now, right? One radio station.
Well, there is Von Radio, and then you have Von Radio, 2020 Vision Radio, but they're more so on the internet. I don't think they have a transmitter, so it's just Von Radio.
There was another one, a Christian one, on the FM band. Now, another thing, I heard Terry talking, and let me say it now. Too many of our radio stations, they need focusing.
Focusing on what?
Too far.
Focusing on what?
In terms of the band. They're supposed to be, let us say they're supposed to be at 98.9. So when them all our people's station, So sometimes it's difficult to catch some of the local ones because other local stations have them hemmed in. You catch them on both sides of a station. So I don't know if the NPRT, why they don't check on it. I don't believe stations should be crowding out other stations like that. And it happened to more than one station, something you're trying to find a station. And some of these other stations, all over the station, you can't get to hear it properly. Have you experienced it?
Not quite
Not
sure.
locally. I know sometimes there are some wires crossed by other regional radio stations. Like when I was in St. Thomas, there would be a cross between a specific station, depending on where you are on the island. There would be a cross between a local station and a station that would be in Puerto Rico.
But I mean, like
I haven't heard it here.
You in Bastille.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't have one station and two bands, and two band space. You see my point? Take WINN FM, for example. You know the station on both sides of it, the same station. And you go further down, some of them down by Dominion, another station. Some of them crowding out each other. I thought they were assigned a band, that FM whatever. I don't know if that is so. But if not, I think some correction needed. Now, another thing is access, because people don't cover the other point. There are some places in St Kitts where people can't catch the radio stations. Once you leave, you reach a certain part of the island, you can't catch certain stations. In a small country like this, they shouldn't be. Countries must, try and make themselves more accessible.
Right.
The older people, well, you could say, well, they could go on the internet, but there are some people, especially the older ones, who are not quite au fait with the internet. So once you leave, if you notice, if you ever try going to the east, when you pass Canada, sometimes you can't hear some station for the life of me until you reach way out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so our people are not being well served.
Right.
In Bastia, you can hear everything because the antennas are up on the mountain there.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Miss Henry. We run out of time. Thank you so much for your input. And just before we go, I just want to get in this last comment that came in from someone. It says, radio is considered to be a reliable source of up-to-date information and as a medium that can influence the minds of many because of its affordability and accessibility, regardless of the many divides that exist among us. Not all sectors of the population are tuned in to the digital era, which quite often is the origin of fake news. And then we turn to the radio for verification. Because of our vulnerability to Wi-Fi and power outages caused by hurricanes or inadequate infrastructure, radio will always have a place in my home, and I expect it will have in yours. And I expect it will in yours as well. Thank you so much.
I think that's a good note to end on.
You were listening to Inside the News on WINN FM 98.9. We were celebrating World Radio Day.
Yes.
It's a new world. It's a new radio. Evolution, innovation, connection.
Most importantly, connection, I think.
Yes. Have a fantastic Saturday. Stay safe. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. And have a wonderful Saturday afternoon.
Yes. Stay tuned.